your meeting, you were going to meet somebody to buy a house the other day.
Oh, that one, that's not going to be a subject too. You don't want that deal. I'm going to end up wholesaling that one, but there's no margin there. You're not, you're not going to buy it.
Why can't it be a sub 2?
She's just flat out not going to go for it.
Okay.
Flat out. It's crazy. She's willing to walk away from it, but she's not willing to let somebody take over the payments. And
did you tell her that when we do a sub 2, we fix her credit improves dramatically?
Yep, I told her everything about it, and she's like, "Nah, I'd rather just go away or whatever, But it's either going to be foreclosed on, or somebody's going to buy it cash. I'm not just going to mess with it. I don't want somebody else, responsible for my payments. I tried every way to overcome that, and she's just like, not going to do it."
Okay.
Like, your loss. But
what are the numbers on the deal?
It's ARV on it is about 175. It needs probably 18 in work, and it's probably going to be, the purchase price is around like 140. So there's like no equity.
What's the underlying loan interest?
3.87.
Would she be willing to trade a house? Where's she moving to?
She's out in Rosenberg. She won't leave Rosenberg. Her family's there. She lives in Rosenberg, works in Sugar Land.
How much cash is she gonna walk from it with any cash?
I'm waiting on the exact payoff from the bank, but if there's any, it's going to be very minimal.
Well, what if we make it less minimum and do the sub 2? In other words, say, look, it's $5,000, right? And what if we show them a credibility kit where we've paid thousands of these mortgage payments? Well, I think we're live, so let's talk about this.
Okay.
By the way, anybody that's watching, what you just witnessed was this is what we do on our coaching calls. We just bounce ideas around and try to figure out how to make a deal work. And oftentimes we find that missing piece. So
yeah, and that's actually a live deal that I'm working on. I've got a friend of mine that is in a situation with her house. But not to bore you with that, let's welcome everybody. This is our weekly training. Mark your calendars for Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time. We do a live training right here in the group. Everybody loves it. We get a lot of raves about it. Tonight, we got a jam-packed show, so grab your pen and paper and take some notes. We're going to be talking about, I'm going to pick Ray's brain on some pretty good questions for you guys on.
you just muted.
So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I've got a few questions for him in regards to mindset and a lot of people's thought process. But before we jump in, go ahead and drop a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Hit the like button, hit the share button, give us a heart. The more engagement we have, the more Ray goes down his rabbit holes, and the more you benefit. The more Ray talks, the more I talk, the more you benefit, because we give a lot of content here on these live trainings. So while people are commenting where they're listening in from, let's go ahead and jump right in. Hopefully you've got your pen and paper. So a lot of people think when you start out, you have to wholesale. Then you wholesale a few deals so you can learn what you're doing. Then after that, you build up capital. Then you can start, buy, fix, and flip, and then you can start buying, holding, or doing long-term deals. And long-term deals doesn't just include buying and holding. You know, they're subject to wraparounds as well that you can do. But a lot of times people are scared to do those. And so Ray's going to address some of those fears tonight. Right, Ray?
I hope so.
No, you're going to. So, Ray, what do you have to say about that thought process that I just put out there, as far as the life cycle of an investor, where they start out wholesaling and work their way? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, James knows, but nobody that knows me will accuse me of sugarcoating anything. I'll pretty much tell you how I think. And surprisingly enough, James has proven me wrong several times. So I forget that though, and so I lose my ability to be humble as soon as I forget it, and then he'll correct me, and then I'm humble for a couple of hours, and then I'm back to my happy to tell you how you're screwing up. So mode. The good thing for a lot of the people listening, I've already made so many screw ups that if you just listen to people who have made mistakes and learn from them, it's invaluable. As a history nut, all these people that are dealing with politics and the issues that relate to politics, and you start reading history, you realize there's almost nothing that's new out there. It's just the only thing that's new is your understanding of it. You know, it's been out there. You just gotta sit down and listen to it and figure it out. If you're on this call, that means you're kind of trying to learn how to do it without having to screw it up. So the issue was really just how to get started, what to get started on, and how we kind of have the wrong mindset sometimes about what we're working on. And when you were talking, James, I wanted to get up in front of the screen like this and say, wholesaling is not investing. There's nothing wrong with wholesaling. There's nothing wrong with being a realtor. There's nothing wrong with being working at the golf, what do they call that? The country club as a waiter and getting leads and opportunities for people that are coming in there that are winding down their assets and then flipping those over to a partner or a person and getting wholesale fees, and then say, hey, can you take the time to show me how I can do more than wholesaling? And then next thing you know, that person's JVing with you and you're doing deals. And why do I say the country club and the waiter? Because I've actually done quite a few deals with one guy. That's what he was. He was a waiter and he had this vision, he had this plan, he wanted to be more. And I told him pretty early on that, hey, you owe it to yourself and your stakeholders to be more than a wholesaler, realtor, a transaction-based, employee or transaction-based business. And we don't want to do that. We want to get out of that mode as quick as we can. So if your end game is to do that, you're just wrong. Period. You're totally wrong. And the only people that can argue with me as far as wholesalers are probably that literally 1 in 10 million person who can actually do 100 to 200 transactions a year. And honestly, I don't even think they can argue with me, because all they're doing is they're on that treadmill and they're running faster and faster and faster. In fact, one of the most successful real estate investors I know was a wholesaler. That's all he did. And he brags about how many deals he did. And so his 1,000 deals are equal to a buy and hold guy's 100 deals, because a wholesaler is not doing the back end. They're not doing the middle end. They're doing the front end. They're getting out of it. Their education curve is virtually zero once they figure out how to get the leads and how to sell them. They're not growing and they're not changing. And in fact, the one guy that I know that did the 1,000 wholesale deals, he ended up holding on to some of those deals because he couldn't get rid of them. It's not because he didn't try to. And now as he's looking back later, he's finding out that He's just like every friggin' business owner in the universe that goes out there and buys a business, makes mortgage payments on the real estate. And when they retire, they find out their real asset is the real estate that they bought to run their business. And it's like, okay, well, the smart real estate guys are saying, well, why don't we just buy the real estate in the front end? Right. And so, yeah, I think that it should be what the long view is. What is it that I'll be doing in 5 years or 10 years? What do I need to put in place? If you believe, like I do, that you hang out with other people doing what you want, then it's almost hard not to succeed. And so if you want to be a wholesaler, or if you want to be a realtor, or you want to be involved in the real estate game, then hanging out with those people and being around those people that's your way of doing it. That's where you get to know the people. That's where you can pull them to the side and ask them questions. And there's not a single person out there who's actually really, really doing it that won't give you, well, there's probably a single person, but it's very rare that they won't talk candidly with you about how they did it, what they did, why they did it a certain way, because every single one of them, almost to a T, relied on somebody else. They stood on somebody else's shoulders, and they know it. You know, like right now, there's about 10 of us that are working together on this big picture, right? Some of them like in my office, some of them for massive passive, and all of us are working on this big picture, and we're all connected in a roundabout ways. We're all connected at the hip, and we're making it happen. And there's not if I'm one of the 10, I guarantee you, if any one of the other 9 who are really rowing as hard as they can, and I know they are, there's no way I would not take the time to bail them out or help them if it's in my power. So was that a rabbit hole? I'm pretty sure that was a rabbit hole. So
that was a little bit. I didn't even see you take a breath in that whole thing. But as people are jumping on here, again, welcome. We do this every week. Drop a comment, say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And Ray, I wanted to, you wanted to get in front of the screen. I wanted to get in front of the screen also, because I thought that one of the things that you were going to say and you didn't was, hey, if you're going to wholesale, that's fine. Just bring us all your deals. We'll be your buyer. We'll be the only buyer you need. Just bring your deals to us. But back to the main topic. I don't want to start rambling, go down a rabbit hole. But when you first started, you started out doing this. I think you were doing it like on the weekends. You had a full-time job, correct?
Yeah, and I worked a lot of overtime. I was averaging about 60 hours a week. But I don't think anybody ever hates working. They just hate doing things that don't have a promise, right? So to me, I never even thought about it as work. I thought about it was like living the dream. First of all, the company I worked for, I loved my job. And then doing this, it's like, this is my chance to make this work. Somebody planted a seed in my head and they said, just go out and buy a house and fix it up and rent it. So like from the day one, I got the right message. If the right message would be, go out there, work your butt off, get it under contract, take 1/7 of the profit and give 6/7 to the other one, I would have said, no, I'm not. That's not my plan. And a lot of people abuse people coming in and they try to bring them in as bird dogs and wholesalers. And I think the abuse is that you're not willing to give back. And the abuse is you're signing them up to do the deal so that everything has to go through you. That's where the abuse is. But if it's a deal where you say, look, if you bird dog, I'll show you what I'm doing, I'll step you through it. That's not abuse, because you're actually showing them what to do and how to do it. And there's so much you can learn. I mean, there's nothing that beats the person that's really out there every day dealing with. There was somebody asked, James, a question about property management and returning a deposit. Well, about 10 years ago, a guy destroyed a property and we did not send the reason we weren't returning the security deposit in the right amount of time. Well, there's an actual specific law that says you have to comply with certain terms, whether you're justified or not. You have to give a notice and all that. We didn't give the notice, and I tried, but my partner didn't want to do it. And so I just kind of said the hell with it. Well, we didn't meet that compliance. So they all of a sudden had to leverage, even though they were in this situation, they were the total bums. And so the guy was basically asking the question from the lesson that I learned 10 years ago. And he asked the question in such a way that there was a very specific answer. So because I was in tune with that, I lived through that. I actually looked that up because I don't think he knew how to look it up. I looked it up, and because there's a special rule, and I was pretty sure I was right on it, but I wasn't sure enough that I said do it this way. In fact, my first response was, I think this is the rule, and here's how you look it up. And he asked a question that made me believe that he wasn't really skilled enough to look it up and really come up with the right answer. So I took the time to look it up. And I just did that on my own because I know what it's like to get that punishment. I know what it's like to have that job and wonder, like, how do I get out of this job? How do I get out of this jail cell? And those people that have escaped, they are always sensitive to that because they understand it. Just like that guy's dealing with that very same issue that I kind of got punished for. And it's like, I don't even know the guy. It was just, he asked that question, he hit that right chord with me, and it's like, okay, boom. Plus, in my experience, when you give, you get back. It's advanced reciprocity. And so I feel like my life has been charmed just because I can rely on people. I can pick up a phone, people answer my phone calls, and we can get to the bottom of things real quick. What's that worth? It's invaluable.
Yeah, that's priceless right there. So here in a couple of minutes, we're going to, I'm going to have Ray give out 3 actionable items actionable things that you can actually do to take action to start working on your goal of reaching financial freedom. But first, I want to pick your brain a little bit, Ray. Other than a couple of things that you've already shared, what are 1 or 2 hardships that you had to deal with, and how did you make it through those hardships?
Let me make a real quick note just to make sure I cover something. So some of the hardships, I think the first hardship was just realizing that I wasn't like in the job, even though I loved the job. I just didn't see a big future in that job. I didn't feel like I had control of my destiny and that I could run at my speed, because I think a lot of people on this phone call feel like they could run at a faster speed and do things faster. It's like sometimes you're listening to people and you don't want them to finish because you already know where it's going. It's like, okay, let's move on. Okay, you're kind of bored with the whole line of things. Well, a line of questions. So it was like I wasn't actuated, if that's such a word. I wasn't reaching my potential, and I wasn't being challenged. And when I first got that job, I really was being challenged, but then I didn't see the big why. I didn't see the big thing that I was achieving. The fact that you can take a residence or a commercial property and turn it into something that's meaningful to somebody in their life and make it good or improve a community. And I know that sounds kind of hokey, but when I started, that was really, really important to me. And so it was just a perfect fit. And plus, I'm a mechanical kind of, my mind is a mechanical mind. I'm not the guy that's extrovert that's gonna just want to go out and talk to people. I like making things. I like putting things together and just coming up with an idea and the way a house could work and the way it could be efficient and a family could be raised in it. That was a big reason for me to get started. And so it was like there was forces pulling against each other, and just that anguish that you go through, like, how do I get going? How do I get going? Now, I never had a really hard time. Well, I say I didn't. Our very first deal, I was driving down the road and I found a burned out house. And so we reached out to the people and they basically handed it to us on a silver platter. So actually getting that first deal was kind of easy, but we got out negotiated. We paid too much. Our lender kind of let us down. The market collapsed all in this one job. We took too long to get the job done because my brother and I were partners on it. And that was a good deal for us because having that other person that I could lean on and count on was really valuable, whether it's a spouse or a coach or a JV, anything that kind of mitigates your risk and kind of helps where everything's not on your shoulders, on top of just trying to figure out how to do it. I think that helped us, but just that anguish of going there. And then when we did that job, I mean, we screwed it up every way from Sunday. We literally didn't do anything for 4 or 5 months after we finished that job, except that we created a triplex out of it and we did collect rents on it, but we kind of basically kind of shut down. And then it's like, I got in the mode and then I went and looked for another property. And next thing, we found that property pretty quick. And we were too stupid and too ignorant to know to pass on deals. We didn't know to pass on deals. So we went and we took on deals that weren't really profitable, but there's something about buying and holding property that erases a lot of sins. There's lots of people who pay retail for stuff. And in this game where the tenant's paying it off for you or the user's paying it off and you get some tax deductions, and there is appreciation, which there isn't always, but the majority of the time there is. It's like it doesn't even matter whether it's a deal. But then we really started learning, like, hey, what's a good deal? What's the properties to avoid? Look at 50 properties and find 3 really good ones instead of looking at 10 properties and buying the crappy one that you work your butt off. So we learned to be smarter, but in the beginning we weren't smart. But so just kind of going through that, I think, and then I think some of the other things we've gone through. 2007, for the people that don't know, every lender almost and every wholesaler almost were put out of business, and a lot of them never came back. Very few lenders. In fact, one of our sponsors, Clint, who's in the mortgage company, he survived 2007. He's one of the few that survived. So one of the issues we had is we really had a cash flow problem because at that time we had a lot of rentals. We didn't have strong cash flow. We weren't too worried about it because we were sitting on a ton of equity. Even when the market kind of prices went down, we were sitting on a lot of equity. But our problem was we never stopped flipping. So we're buying and holding and flipping. And the flipping was allowing us to have that $10,000 every couple of months or 15,000 or whatever. And it kept the machine rolling. And at the same time, we're kind of growing, growing our business. And by then, my brother and sister-in-law, Connie, and my wife and Audie, we were really hustling. And I don't mean hustling, but we were expanding. And so, and hustling, and then when that 2007 happened, boom, a buddy of mine was buying 30 houses a month and he had 54 people working for him and he went out of business. And because he had a big cash flow thing. So the issue, and we had a cash flow issue too, but we were able to cover ours, but it was kind of tight because we literally couldn't flip houses from about, I want to say 2007 to 2008. Our ability to flip houses, which was our big chunks of cash, just went away. And thank God we had to buy and hold stuff.
But I like what you said there, and I want to just kind of pause and go back to it for our audience, and it refers to, you said you flipped, but you also were buying and holding, and you used flipping to, kind of, that was like your eating money, your marketing money, things like that,
Right.
that to
Right.
fuel the business. Okay. So, even though we talk a lot of bad about wholesaling, we're not totally against it. That could be used the same way. And we want, regardless of what your exit strategy is, we want to help you be a better deal maker. In our Facebook group, it's named Massive Passive Deal Maker. And so everything that we talk about on these trainings is to get you to be a better deal maker, to help you become a better deal maker, but then work towards becoming that passive deal maker,
Right.
and massive passive deal maker.
Hey,
So I just
let me
kind of
just,
want to
can I
pause.
tie in there real quick? And I know you,
Yes.
so when we were starting, we just had like one template. Fortunately, we picked a better template than probably 7 out of 10 people are picking, and that's wholesaling. So, I challenge you to tell me why I'm wrong on the way I think. I had a guy challenge me where I was actually doing a presentation, and he was doing 2 or 3 deals a month, making substantial amount of money, and he challenged me, and I said, well, let's just listen to me for 45 minutes, because that's how long my presentation was. And at the end of that, this was a major Sunday. He told me in the very beginning, he says, I don't even want to come in here. I feel like it's gonna be a total waste of my time. And at the end of the deal, he said, Ray, I didn't even know you could do deals like this, because he'd been taught one way and that's all he ever learned. And what I'm saying is, look, you can do all kinds of things. The basics are wholesale, flip, and hold, right? And so when you're out there and you're getting smarter and you're learning more, you're going to realize, you know what, this is a perfect hold, just like the deal when you and I were talking about. And you're like, you're going to try not to give that lady any money, but what if I give her $10,000? If I give her $10,000 and I can control that 3% interest rate, what's wrong with it? She might go for it. She might not have the right incentive. So if you're out there and you're putting this together in your head and you're saying, well, she's never going to do that. She's telling me she won't. She's telling me she won't. Well, I can't tell you how many times people tell me they won't do something and they end up doing it. And it's because we got to figure out, we got to master overcoming objections, and we got to know like what our end game is. Like, why is it so freaking important that I buy and hold that property? And if you truly understand why it's so important, you truly believe it, you will fight to the end. I think I was reminded of that time that we were negotiating with that real estate broker, and she was a cynic, you and I, and she was a cynic, and she wasn't taking nothing from us. And she basically treated us like we were criminals, right? And she was, I don't know if you remember which one I'm talking about, James, but it was the mother of the adult children who were trying to sell that property, and they wanted to wait till after school ended or started or something, and we had to close on it 3 or 4 months later.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But the broker just like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. I don't know. I'll think about that, but I don't like you anyway. And it's like, it was just like, I felt like we were taking a super tanker and just taking 35 miles to turn it around so we could get it to go back the other direction. And it was a struggle. It was a slow process. But if you're out there and you're saying, I got this one way, I got this one way, I got this one way, you're the super tanker that's going to take 35 miles to turn around, and just be open-minded and listen and say, well, I could do that one thing, but that's the only time I'm going to do it. And then next thing, I could do that one thing, maybe we can do it again. And then you're going to say, I could do that one thing and I ain't doing nothing else. This is it. And it's like, you change, you grow and you change. So, but why wait 30 years to figure that out? Why not just do what the people have been doing this for 30 years? Just go to that right away. Just skip to the head of the class.
Yeah, definitely hang around people, get out there and network. In fact, we have networking events every month, and we actually have a class this coming Saturday, Ray, that you're going to be talking a lot about creative financing subject to.
Yeah, why are you making me work all day Saturday?
Because I know you like to work.
No, I don't. And I'm taking more and more flack from my wife. So no, I do enjoy, it is kind of neat to go through this and explore possibilities. It's really neat to see somebody get excited about something and look at it from a different perspective. And sometimes it's not something you can do in 5 or 10 minutes. We're all trained to get the short answer, but it's like you got to, in order to take action, You have to believe. In order to believe, you got to go through the process. You got to go through that mental process of like, how do I get from A to Z? And if the letter E is missing, you know, people shut down. Like, no, there's a gap there. And so what we got to do is figure out how to get people to go through that mental process to where they believe it. And if they can believe in the outcome and they can see it and they see real proof, then they'll buy in. Next thing you know, they're changing what they believe and they're changing how they behave. And you can't do that in 10 minutes, especially if you're in the wholesale mentality. There's no way you can believe in the buy and hold, because you're not going to believe in the power of it, or you're not going to believe that you can do it. And so if we can overcome those objections, if we can prove to you that you're wrong, you're probably going to take action. And it is kind of neat. I don't know if I ever told you this story. I don't know if he's listening, but this guy I know worked 80 hours a week, one of the hardest workers I know. He basically took a voluntary layoff. As part of his package, they gave him $2 million, basically $2 million in a retirement fund. And he's still young. And 6 months later, I helped him do 10 or 15 deals. And he said this, and it's like, I don't even know how to take it. He said, Ray, you saved my life. And I think what he was trying to say was, I had the money, but I was dying. You know, I was working 80 hours a week. I was being pulled in every possible direction. I didn't have any life of my own. And then you took me and changed how we did something. And now I feel like I'm back in control of my life. I feel like I'm having fun. I'm not answering to people I don't even know. You know, I'm establishing what I work on, what I don't work on. I'm establishing what investments I do. And he's a hard worker. I mean, hard workers are always going to be hard workers, but he's working on his dream, his vision, not somebody else's vision or somebody else's dream. And by the way, I hope you wrote that down, because I impressed myself with what I just said. I think we're really kind of getting to like, what is it that we as human beings want out of life? You know, what is it that we really, really want to do? And I think it's easy to say, oh, I want to sit on the beach and watch, you know, scantily clad women walk by in bikinis and drink pina coladas. I don't think that's what people want. I think people want to have important relationships in their life. They want to have a sense of belonging and a sense of mission, and they want to have a good outcome. They want to have people around them they like and people that like them. So, you know, I think that's the real answer. It's about the lifestyle, and lifestyle is like, you know, people you can hang out with and you go to lunch with and say 30 minutes in the conversation, man, I just like hanging out with these people.
So at the class on Saturday, you're going to be talking about the how to do a subject to deal, the understanding the time value of money, and you're actually going to go through a case study, correct?
Yeah. So first of all, just so everybody on this thing knows, I always run out of time, and then I always try to go over, and then everybody tries to, the people that are at the event try to shut me down. So that's my modus operandi. So the loose plan is we're going to spend about an hour of understanding how the money works in creative deals. Because if you don't understand what the present value, how it relates to the future value, you got to conceptually understand that. And thank God for Jimmy Napier, who came along early on and told me why that's so important. So we're going to probably spend an hour on that. And we're not going to do any high level stuff, but we're going to throw some vocabulary words out there and stuff like that, because that's really important to putting creative deals together. And sub-twos is a form of creative deals. It's something that everybody likes to talk about, and there's some really, really good reasons for people to get involved in it. But that's just a small part of creative deals. So we'll talk about, we're going to do like a case study where we're going to run a real deal. I kind of gerrymandered the numbers a little bit just so it's easier for everybody to understand it. I'm not going to go down to the, you know, to the dollar and the cents in it, but we're going to talk about a real deal, and then we're going to run it through simultaneously. We're going to run like 3 lanes. It's sort of, I think of it like a track race. There's going to be 3 lanes, 3 runners, and runner number 1 is going to be Mr. Wholesale. Runner number 2 is Mr. Flip, and runner number 3 is Buy and Hold. And we're going to watch them run that race and just see how they get to the finish line. And we're going to actually do a real deal, run it through there. And so we got to, and that's a little bit of a struggle just because we got to explain it. Okay, we got to explain it. And then once we run that race, then we're going to talk about how, like, if you agree with me that the runner in lane 3, that they're going to win. And I'm going to already tell you a spoiler alert, lane 3 is going to win this race. Okay. And since I'm the one putting it together, I've already verified, and as the judge, I've already determined and verified lane 3 is going to win. So I apologize if there's some sort of bias in this as a referee, but then we're going to talk about what you have to do to get yourself in a position where you're in lane number 3 and you're going to be the winner. And so that's going to talk about like how we overcome obstacles to be that creative deal maker. And there's several of them. And so we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about, and this, I hope we don't get drugged down too much on time, because we really will get drugged down on this. Then we're going to talk about how other ways to put creative deals together. I don't think you got a chance, James, to be a part of all the coaching call last night, but we kind of got into one of the contracts we use that have hardwired paragraphs that force you, if you go through them, to create a creative deal. In other words, the purchase agreement that we covered last night, if you use that purchase agreement, you will be forced to create a creative deal. Or, well, you won't be forced to create it, but if you fill in the blanks, you will win. Well, you will end up with a creative deal. So the final part of what we'll do is like, what are some ways that make deals creative? What are some of the stuff that we'll do? And when you get out of this, my goal is when you get out of this, you're gonna do what everybody else says after we go through this. They're gonna say, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't know this was possible. And it's a very common thing, nobody's ever explained this to me like this. And I don't know. I mean, that's exactly what people say when we talk about this stuff. And that's if you're hardcore and only seen one way of doing things, if you're strictly a flipper or strictly a wholesaler, I guarantee you that will be your response before the end of the meeting. In fact, I believe it so strongly. If you don't believe that when you're at the end of it, I think it's $100, which is, I don't even think worth the time to pay that, but are worth the time to collect that. But if you don't believe that, just tell James to give you your money back, and we'll give it back, no questions asked.
So, are you telling me I'm gonna have to run a race on Saturday?
Well, what lane are you going to be in? Because I already told you lane 3 wins.
Okay, well, maybe you can run in lane 3, you can pull me. I don't do much running, as you can tell.
Well, you just draft, because there'll be I will be getting the wind out of your way.
So guys, if you want,
there's a question, which lane stops the fastest? Well, the wholesaler never gets to the finish line, if that's what it's asking. I'm telling you, they never do. The wholesaler never gets to the finish line.
So if you guys want in on this class, drop a comment in the comment section and say creative, and I'll reach out to you. Make sure you get the link to register for the class. Like he did say, it is $100. Very, very valuable. I've seen other people charge $400 or $500 for the same stuff, and we're practically giving it away. So again, drop creative in the comments so I can make sure that you get the link. I want to get to our golden nuggets here. We did say that we were going to tell them 3 things that they can do. I'm going to jump in, throw you a little curveball. I'm going to throw out some things from my perspective, and then I'll hand it back to Ray, and he can put some things on from his perspective. And I'm hoping Ray will talk about calm under his perspective. But I think when you're first starting out, regardless of what your exit strategy is, you really need to learn and focus on marketing and lead generation. And then you need to look at, learn how to negotiate and talk to sellers, and then focus on learning about properties, how to evaluate them, estimate repairs, things like that. So again, it's marketing, lead generation, and just getting the deals, negotiating the deals, and evaluating the deals. You can focus on those and get out there and take action. I think that can put you on the right track. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it back to Ray and have, he can give you his input.
Okay, so just repeat the question so everybody knows it.
3 things that are actionable, 3 things they can do to take action to help get them on the path to reaching their goals of financial freedom.
Well, I think first of all, figure out how to hang out with people that are on that path already, because if they're on that path, they're going to psych you up and keep you focused on being on that path. Okay, because you'll lose interest if you're hanging out with people that have never done it. Then get away from. I'm not saying get away from them, but that's not who you want to hang out with. Hang out with the people who are doing what you want to do. We have a RIA in Houston. We meet the second Saturday of every month, and we have a RIA in San Antonio. We meet the second Thursday of every month. Hang out with us there. If you're these live streams, hang out here, because these are people who are doing it every day. We work hard. In fact, I've got it set up now where I'm working in my real estate business almost full time. The only exception, I'm not working in my real estate business, is like on these live streams and the classes that James makes me do. So the coaching calls. I love our coaching calls because we get to brainstorm and mastermind. So hang out with the people you want to do. I think number 2 is have a plan. And I want to put it parentheses. It's okay if the plan's wrong, open parentheses, close parentheses, but have a plan. There's a guy named Gary Keller with Keller Williams. He wrote a book called How to Be a Real Estate Millionaire. And he also wrote a book, How to Be a Real Estate Agent Millionaire. And the book about the real estate agent millionaire, what I really loved about that book was he took a plan and he said, look, I want to have X amount of assets or a certain dollar amount of assets. And that's a good thing to say. So like say in 3 years or 5 years, I want to have $1 million in cash or equity. So write that down and have a plan. So that's your plan. And if you read the Gary Keller, How to Be a Real Estate Agent Millionaire, he literally takes that dollar and he shows you how to work backwards to where you have to convert, and you won't know how to do this, and it doesn't matter, because once you know what the right questions are, then people like me are standing around all the time and will tell you what the right answers are. Your job is to find out what the right questions. So you work backwards and you say, okay, well, if I got to have $1 million in equity or cash, how many deals is that? What kind of deals is that? How many leads is that? How many phone calls is that? How many meetings is that? How many contracts is that? How many hours a day is that? How many days a week is that? And so you take that with the end in mind and you work backwards. In fact, the book by Gino Wickman called Traction really kind of changed our life and the way we run our business. And in that book, you work with the end in mind, you set a goal, and then you start work, you build rocks, and these rocks end up being 90-day goals. And then you have daily actions and you figure out what that is. And it really doesn't even have to be daily. It just has to be regular and consistent. I mean, you can be incredibly conditioned. You can get a 6-pack if that's important to you for strength training and all that. You can build incredible muscles, and you don't have to do it 7 days a week. You can do it 3 days a week, but it's got to be regular. It's got to be consistent, and you got to have a plan. And I'd say that would be the second thing that I would make real important to me. And I think the third thing is just you got to figure out how to become a believer. You got to figure out how to become a believer. And the only way I know to do that is to be around people and start making these small, minor changes, because they make long-term massive changes. And it's like, if you're trying to lose weight, if you don't either measure the amount of calories you're putting in your body, or measure your weight, or you don't have some sort of metrics, then you're never going to become a believer. You get on a diet and you lose 10 pounds real quick, it's like it propels you to stay on it another couple of weeks, another 4 weeks, and all of a sudden it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because these things, you're seeing that outcome, you're seeing that result, and you're looking at your metrics, and next thing you know, you're on the way. And just have the long view, realize this is not going to happen tomorrow. In fact, failure is okay. I was talking to somebody the other day about quitting smoking, and it's like, you're not a loser because you try to quit smoking and then you fail. You're a loser because you quit trying to quit, right? Just as you say, okay, well, some guys can do it their first time. Some people can do it their 7th time, and some people can do it their 30th time. And I don't know which one I am, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to do, if plan A doesn't work, I'm going to go plan B. If plan B don't work, I'm going to do plan C. But just don't quit.
Mm-hmm. And when back to one of the things you were saying, for you got one more, because that was only 2.
No, that's 3.
Yeah.
You got to believe. You got to get to where you can believe. You got to have a positive attitude where you totally believe.
The one thing I wanted to add to that, Ray, is believe in the business, but also believe in yourself. You got to be able to look in the mirror and point to the person in the mirror and say, I believe in you. You got this.
Yeah, I think you can look in the mirror and say, you dummy. And I really want to say a different version of dummy, but since it's a PG. But I mean, be critical of yourself. Do whatever it takes. Be uncomfortable. That there's a thing called cognitive dissonance, and cognitive dissonance says, hey, I'm not living up to my potential, and so I'm depressed. And so then your choices are like, okay, what's your potential? What are you going to do to overcome it? Does that mean, like, if I want to be in good shape, does that mean I go and just go grab some dumbbells and start raising them, or I go for a walk, or I go and get a beer and sit down at the bar? Cognitive dissonance says if you go sit at the bar, then internally your subconscious is saying, you're a loser, you're a loser. And you know what? You ought to listen to it. You ought to say, yeah, I'm not going to be a loser. I'm going to go grab those damn dumbbells and I'm going to start lifting them up. And I'm going to let that cognitive dissonance work for me. Don't think of yourself as a loser. Just think of yourself as, I failed. Not a failure, but I failed. I blew it. I went 2 weeks without smoking. I lost 15 pounds and gained 10 pounds of it back. You're not a failure. You just failed at that point. A failure is somebody that quits. The only difference between failing and a failure is a failure quits.
Mm-hmm. And we've all made mistakes. I mean, I've shared a couple of times, a deal where I did something and, it cost me money. Instead of making, 6,000 or 8,000, I made 5,000 or 6,000. I just came out of a nightmare flip, recently, that me and my partner, we lost a bunch of money on that deal. But, I always say, when life knocks you down, you just pick yourself up, dust your shoulder off, and put one foot in front of the other and keep going.
Yeah, and I think if you believe that, like if you study history and you study success, I don't know of any success that hasn't failed. I just don't know. I've never, there's probably some of those people out there, but I don't know any successful person that hasn't failed. In fact, think about the most basic thing. If a child trips and stumbles or runs and stubs their toe, what's the chances are they going to stub their toe again? But that child that never gets to stub their toe, that child that never gets to fall, my guess is they're never going to learn how to walk, because there's no incentive to walk, right? When you get up there and you can walk, and you learn how to run hard and fall hard, you're going to like, okay, you know what? I guess I have to keep my eyes in front of me, the direction I'm running. Right. And the person that fails is that person that turns their head and runs into a wall and hope. And so you wouldn't want to quit right there, because we do want to run fast. Right. So we want to learn what it is that makes us successful. What is it that other people are doing? What can I incorporate, and how can I become that person?
Okay, right. We got about 5 minutes left. So let's go ahead and start wrapping up. Again, guys, if you want to be a part of that class, drop creative. If you want to connect on a short 4 or 5 minute phone call, and I can give you some pointers in the right direction. We can talk a little bit about a game plan. Drop in the comments, call, and I can reach out to you. Again, it's just 4 or 5 minutes just for us to talk about where you are and what are some actionable items that you can do to get started and get on the right path. So like I said, Ray, we're almost done, but I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to you to start closing us out.
Well, one thing is also, James, and I don't know if you're kind of alluding to that, I used to do like individual coaching, and I don't do that anymore because it's too intense for me, because we're in this business, real estate business, every day working on our stuff. We're about to start, we've got 4 houses that we're about to start doing Airbnbs on. And I'm really excited about it, but I'm a little nervous because it's something I haven't done before. And one of our houses is a log cabin. And we asked the guy how much longer does he plan on being a tenant, because we want our house back. And it turns out he's ready to move. So that's going to be one of our Airbnbs. And then we have another one at in a really strong construction area that's going to be another Airbnb. And we have 2 that we have duplex that's in Galveston, and we have 1 that's on the beach in Crystal Beach. So we're going to try to put all 4 of those. It's really, I guess, 5. We're going to try to put them all online in the next 30 days. So I'm really excited about that. It's a lot of things going on. We're so wrapped up in our deals and our business. I don't do one-on-one coaching anymore, even though it pays a whole lot more. I just don't do it because I just don't want to be tied down to that. I want to continue working with my partners and making all of us more money. So, but we still do group coaching where I'll get on the phones 3 or 4 times a month, but it's only set up for a couple hours each week. And if they're actually working deals, we'll actually work deals with them and JV with them. But if they do get a chance to call you, you might just share that with them, James, some of the things we do there. And if you don't want to do it, then James will at least brainstorm with you and answer your questions and tell you some of the things that he's involved in or how to do it, or he'll send me an email and I'll share with you some of the things that we've done or lessons we've learned. I start almost every PowerPoint slide that I've ever done with the slide that says we stand on the shoulders of the people that came before us. And I so totally believe that. And if it weren't for those people that gave me their time and their energy, it wouldn't, I don't think I would have been able to survive 38 years doing this. And our whole family is basically in this business. My children in the business, my wife, my brother, his wife. I don't think I'd ever got there if it weren't for the people that went before me. So I owe a debt. I'm happy to pay it back. I just don't have a lot of time to pay it back. So that's why we opted only for group coaching and not one-on-one coaching. Even though you can make a lot of money, ultimately it costs us too much money to do that.
In fact, Ray, I want to let them know, our listeners, that when you join the group, you get access to one of our coaching calls on the first Tuesday of the month. You get access to one of those for free. Okay. So what we're actually doing that first Tuesday is called the open coaching call. We're also tracking the people when they join the group, and we're keeping a spreadsheet. And so for next month, everybody that joins in September, they're going to get an invite to this open call on the first Tuesday of October. So guys, be on the lookout for that. If you are new to our group, then we'll send you an invite. You don't have to take advantage, but it's there for you if you want. That way you get to know Ray a little bit better, you get to know us a little bit better, and see what we can do for you. So I just wanted to put that out there so that when you get the invitation, it's not a surprise. You know, you actually know what it is. But we'll be in touch. We'll get that information out there to you. And if you have joined the group but you've never attended a coaching call, send me a message, drop a comment, let me know. I want to make sure that you have the opportunity, because everybody gets the opportunity for one. So I want to make sure that you take advantage of that. That's all I have, other than, you know, Saturday we have our radio show, and then right immediately after the radio show is the class. And we're going to be posting links in the group so that you can tune in. We have our YouTube channel, subscribe to that. There's links in the group as well. You know, we want to give as much as we can, like Ray was saying a minute ago. And then mark your calendars for the second Saturday of every month. If you're in the Houston area, the second Saturday of every month. And I'm trying to convince Ray, even though he doesn't like when I try to make him work, we're going to be trying to do monthly classes as well. So I'm trying to put together something really sweet for next month. So stay tuned for that. That's all I got. You got anything else, Ray? I'm going to hand it over to you to close us out. And you're muted.
That Saturday class is going to be live and in Zoom, right?
Correct. Yeah, when we do when we do the classes and the webinars, most of them are live in person and on Zoom, because we know that we do have a nationwide audience. So the only thing is we ask you guys to pre-register. That helps us, you know, deliver better. It helps us know. It helps us prepare better. You know, how many people we're going to have there. And then a lot of times we even do like early bird. If you pre-register, it's you know, it's one price, but if you pay at the door or something like that, then it's a different price. Another thing is, at our networking events, we usually bring like breakfast tacos and donuts. So we really need to know how many people are going to come see us, so we have the right amount of food to supply. So that's all I got.
Okay, well then I'm out of here.
See y'all guys Saturday.
And thank you, Hal.